Good morning. It's Tuesday, April 17th. Two of our top stories today talk about the kind of business pressure for corruption that can occur in seafood. I thought they were quite interesting. The first is something we reported on initially a couple of weeks ago. Now we get the full story. There's been an arrest of about 50 people involved in a seafood importing ring in Shanghai, which has consistently sent undervalued or false value invoices to Chinese customs and thereby paid less duty than they would have otherwise if they had reported the real prices of their imported products. There are about 764 seafood importers in Shanghai, but there are only 4 customs agents. And the way that this ring worked was it used the customs agents to pressure both the vendors, the external companies selling into China, and the Chinese importers themselves to go along with the scheme to send in lower value invoices to the customs department. That has now been broken up. It led to a halt in seafood imports to Shanghai from Canada and the U.S. temporarily a couple of weeks ago, but now we know the reason for it. These kind of things, I think, are always going to pop up here and there. It's not a new issue. Of course, the U.S., when we had the duties imposed on Vietnamese catfish, immediately we saw some corruption here as well. The other story that's very interesting that's been in the news is the issue about Russian salmon. Russia is the largest importer of Norwegian fresh salmon, larger even than France. Why would the Russian veterinary service keep threatening to shut down these imports? Well, the backstory here is that there is a fight over salmon in Russia because most of these Norwegian importers, the Norwegian companies, about 8 primary exporters to Russia, all deal with one particular partner. And so these partners have a monopoly, in effect, on distribution of fresh Norwegian salmon in Russia. The seafood companies in Russia that don't have access to this salmon directly have been unable to open up their own contacts with the Norwegian salmon exporters. And there's some suspicion here that there's a collusion to try to maintain prices by limiting the number of people that are being exported to. Now, the phytosanitary regulations all are about, testing and protocols and so forth, but there's a very interesting sort of demand under the surface, which is that the Russian veterinary service wants public the contracts between the Norwegian salmon exporters and the Russian import companies. And it's precisely this, the making the contracts public, which is one of the things that's being resisted. And as a result, this fight keeps spilling over, with the latest news being that the Russians have given the Norwegians until April 25th to try to clear up some of these demands. Otherwise, they might threaten again to halt salmon imports. In Lexington, Mass., this is John Sackton.